Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off where we left off. You guys need to have a 4H pencil, an eraser, so double check to make sure, guys, that you do have a 4H pencil in your hand and not a 3B or 6B, so make sure you looked at that. You're not going to need the needed erasers, and you're not going to need a ruler today, so that's all we need. And make sure that you are on your drawing board and that it's like propped up at an angle and you're not drawing flat on your table. Okay, so don't want to draw flat. Now, because we still have some sort of measuring and marking we need to do, you guys can go ahead and take your tools off the easel so they're easy to measure off of. And again, after you measure and mark on your own project, pass it around to somebody else at your table who needs it. But I'll give you guys a minute. Go ahead and grab your tools off your easel. Go ahead. Grab the tools off the easel. So that way you're not, getting up and down constantly. Save you guys a lot of time. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the wrench. So those of you who have the wrench will need to listen. I'm just going to review what we've got here so we can remember what these marks are. So the first thing we did was we measured how tall our tool was and we placed it in the middle of our paper on that midline that we made. So this is the same size as that. Then the next thing we did was we figured out how wide the handle was, so we just measured here and marked it there. Then we tried to figure out where this the top of this indentation was. And again, we just measured and marked it on our paper. And then we measured and marked how wide it was at that point on our drawing. And then up here, we figured out where these things were, at least, again, what we're guessing where they're at. So this is right here on top of that part right here. You can see how, the top of this is hitting the midline that we have, so that's why that mark is right there. And then this mark right here represents where the top of this is. Now, it's not to say that this is where everything is going to stay. These are just suggestions, and it's a place to start, but it's certainly not where I'm going to end. So these marks probably are going to change. I'm not going to know how right or wrong this stuff is until I start drawing, so I'll figure it out later. All right? So what I want to do now is I want to figure out basically this area. So there's a lot going on up here. So I want to figure out just basically how wide is it at its widest point. So I'm not going to know where it's at quite yet, but I just want to know how wide it is. So I'm going to go ahead and measure how wide it is right here, and I'm going to mark it somewhere up here. So I'm going to measure and mark. I don't know. So measure and mark. I'm not sure if it's okay. I know. I got here right after I think you left. It's a bit of a mess.
I know, and that's what occurred.
Yeah.
We talked to Riley this morning about it, and how it was.
We think maybe it's okay, but it's funny, every time we think it's okay, then I sit down and do a demo, and then I go back to playback, and it's not working, so.
Is the playback not working?
Well.
It's more than that.
It's more than that.
Give me a minute.
Let's see here.
Tomorrow.
Teaching off with
We were thinking about it,
after school today, well, I have to get to a doctor's appointment.
I can't say, yeah.
Tomorrow morning?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just do calendar invite to Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So again, all I'm going to do, now when I made those marks, what I'm going to do is just kind of draw these up and down. And the reason why I'm kind of making these marks tall is because, again, I don't know exactly where my widest point is. I just know that no part of my tool drawing should get wider than that area. So I always measure and mark twice, and I think I made that actually too wide, so I'm going to cut this in more. So I'm going to change this. Again, I always measure and mark twice because I do find that I'm not always right the first time. Now again, at any point of this, you know, if you're unsure about how tall something needs to be, how wide something needs to be, what the size of something that needs to be, measure and mark it, because we're using actual size. So that makes it easy for you guys to figure out answers to those questions. So the next thing I'm going to do on this is I want to figure out, like, this angle right here. Everybody on the wrench has this sort of like angle. This is really important part of the wrench because it kind of anchors a lot. So I want to figure out where the top, where the high edge is, and I want to figure out where the low edge is. Now, if you guys look at what I've done here, and I don't want you to draw on the board, I'm just doing this to show you guys. So what I did is I drew a horizontal line across where it matches up to that indentation. This is plumb and level, so I'm looking at how things are aligned. I am going to, basically, I want to answer the question, like, how far away is this from this part, because I already have that mapped out. So I want to figure out how far away the high part is and the low part. So I'm going to basically just take this measurement from here to here, and I'm going to mark it right here. So again, my question was, how far away is this from this? So I'm measuring the distance from that high part of that angle to where this indentation is. I'm not going like this, okay? I'm going like this, measuring from here to here and marking it there. I'm going to do the same thing for the low side. I'm going to measure from here to where that indentation is lined up to. I'm going to measure and mark. And that should give me that angle. And then I'm going to just connect them to get that angle. Now again, I'm pretty positive this is actually too wide, but the angle will probably, I need that angle just to help me. Now, will it change over time? Again, yes. The answer to that is always yes. These are only suggestions. But again, I'm not going to know how right or how wrong what I'm doing is until I start adding things to my drawing. But this is a start. So wrench people, I'm going to give you guys some time to work on that. I'm going to switch to the plier people. All right, plier people. So just as a little review, what we did is we measured the height of our tool. We took that measurement and we put it in the middle of our drawing paper. Then we figured out, we measured and marked where our two handles were, measured and marked those. Then we wanted to figure out where does it sort of come together. For me, and I asked you guys to find a landmark to use to measure off of. For me, I used this bolt that I have. Everybody's got a different tool, so you need to find a landmark that works best for you to measure off of. But for me, this mark represents where that was, and all I did was, again, measured and marked. Same thing with the two prongs up here at the top. I just measured and marked them up there at the top because this is the tallest part of my drawing. So, we need to answer similar questions on the pliers that we did with the wrench. I need to figure out just how tall this section needs to be and how wide this section needs to be. So I'm going to approach this the same way as the wrench. Because I used my bolt here as for this mark right here, I'm going to measure how wide it is right there. You need to measure how wide your tool is at that landmark that you used. Okay, so I'm going to measure and mark it and place it here. And I'm going to, again, make these nice tall lines. Because I'm not exactly sure where this needs to be. Well, I guess I do kind of know where it's at. But. So yeah. So I just drew it. Okay, again, I measured how wide my tool is here at the bolt because that's the landmark I used for this mark. I measured how wide it was right there, and I measured and marked it. So, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to figure out how tall this is. So where the top and where basically the bottom are where those two pieces come together. Down here at the bottom. So again, I don't want to I will measure the whole thing, but not right now. I'm going to measure off of my bolt because again, that I know where this is, or at least I have a good guess at where that is. So I'm going to measure just how much space is below that. So I'm going to measure and mark. I'm going to do the same thing above it. I'm going to measure and mark. And then what I can do to just double check that I've got this correct, I'm going to measure and mark the whole space. And I need to make it go bigger. It's going to go up. Make this go up. So as you can see, I had to move things, and that's fine, because I'm finding answers to my questions. If I'm not moving and changing things as I'm working on this drawing, then I'm definitely doing something wrong. Okay? So I just want to figure out, I'm going to double check these measurements, how much space is below that bolt, how much space is above that bolt. Okay, so plier people, I'm going to give you some time to kind of map that area out. Wrench people, we're going to move on. All right, so believe it or not, wrench people, you guys are ready to start drawing. I'm going to start with what I think is the easiest part, which is the handle. Now what you're going to look at is, notice how it's round down here at the bottom. Notice also too, we've got a hole here and we got this indentation. I'm actually going to ignore the hole and I'm going to ignore this indentation. Those are some of those big details that I'll wait till later to do. So I just want to basically do kind of like an outline or a basic drawing. You're going to notice too that as I start drawing this in, I'm going to be, again, I got to remind myself that these are only suggestions. So that when I start drawing this in, if I find that these don't look right, that these marks don't make sense, then I'm going to change it, okay? Now at this point, now that you are drawing, it's best for you guys to have the tool up on your easel, okay? So once everybody is done sort of measuring and marking off of your tool, put it back on your easel because you really need to see the whole thing. So I'm going to move mine. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit easier for you to see. So again, I'm going to start drawing my tool here at the bottom, and I'm going to keep in mind that this is a rounded edge. So I'm going to get this to a point where I think it looks good. Now, I am not going to use a ruler for this, for these edges. I'm going to show you a little trick here. I had a professor, we had to do all these architectural drawings from life or from direct observation. We weren't allowed to use a ruler. So we had to learn how to draw a straight line. So what I would do, now that I'm ready, I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to kind of anchor my hand on the table here. I'm going to anchor my hand on the table and I'll just keep it steady, and I'm just going to connect this. And you notice here I'm making some mistakes, and that's fine. I'm going to draw it lightly at first, but then once I think I've got it, then I'll kind of draw it in a little bit more. Same thing for this other side. Now one thing that I do notice on this tool is that it's wider here at the bottom and it's a bit skinnier here, and when I look at my drawing it looks like it's the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix that. So again, it doesn't look right to me, I'm going to fix it. So I'm going to make this go out wider. Same thing here. So if I see something wrong, I need to fix it. Guys, you want to make sure all your books, Chromebooks, cell phones should be over on the counter, not on your lap, unless of course you're watching a demo on Canvas. I'm going to fix this. Then I'm going to take my eraser in here and kind of clean this stuff up. Sure. You might miss stuff. I'm just going to kind of work on this bottom here a little bit until I get the shape that I think is in a good place. There. Now again, there's nothing, even though I'm spending some time on this, it doesn't mean that I'm going to keep it looking like this. I might find that as I work on the drawing that I need to continue to fix it. And again, that's normal. That is normal. All right. I think it looks like I got a little bit of a bump or something. Okay. All right. Still not happy with this. All right, so now I'm just going to keep moving up. So I'm going to start just kind of drawing this up. I've got these, basically these markers as far as where stuff needs to go. So I'm just going to connect stuff. And again, if it doesn't feel right, then I'm not going to use it. So I'm looking at like this. If I go all the way out here, it looks like it's too wide. If I want to be sure, I can always mark and measure. So again, anytime you're like, ooh, I don't know if this is the right size, or how tall does this need to be, how wide does this need to be, measure and mark. So you can tell already, I've already changed how wide I think my tool needs to be. And again, this is fine. If you're not changing some of this, then you're probably doing something wrong. When you're drawing parts, use other things to help you. So I'm like, and I'll show you where I'm at right now. I'm drawing this line right here. When I got to this part, I was like, okay, I don't know what angle this needs to be. But when I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is the same angle as this line. So I used this line that I've already got drawn to help me draw that one. So find something to help you. Working on just this angle right now. So what I want you guys to do, those of you who have the wrenches, I want you to work on that, just getting this shell drawn. Okay, so that's my basic kind of like shell, so to speak. Get to that point, for those of you who have the wrench. All right, plier people. Oh, I have to sign that. Can't leave without. I'm going to sign it. Yeah, fill it out and then I'll sign it. All right, so plier people. I'm going to come back out here. All right, so again, you're ready to start drawing also too. I'm going to start the handles. Now, when you draw the handles, I have tricks for you. All I want you guys to do is just worry about drawing one of the handles. Don't try to draw both of them right now. Just draw one, okay? So I'm going to try and draw, I'm going to start with the right one. Now, if you guys look at my tool, I basically have two pieces of metal. So I have a top and I have a bottom. I'm going to draw the top piece first. Now, for some of you guys, you have a tool that's kind of designed like me, where it's like two pieces that are on top of each other and hooked together by a bolt. Some of you guys have pieces that are coming together here in the middle, but they're side by side. They're not laying on top of each other. If you have a tool like mine, I would draw the piece that is on top first. That's why I'm going to draw this one. Okay? Now, first thing I've got to do, when I look at this, again, I don't know how wide this needs to be, so I'm going to measure and mark how wide my handle needs to be. Now, if you look at this, on these handles, they're kind of skinnier here at the bottom, and they get a bit wider as they come up to the top. I'm going to go ahead and draw it as if it's the same width from bottom to top, but then I'll go back and I'll make it wider up here. But I'm at the point now that I need to put my tool again up on the easel rather than keeping it next to me. So I'm going to move my tool on the easel, and now I can see it. So what I'm going to do is just spend a little time drawing the bottom here. Now the bottom is not a perfect, kind of like, got some dips on it. It's got a shape to it. Now basically what you're looking at for this is that it's a piece of metal with like this foam material or plastic material wrapped around it. So we want it to look like it's wrapped around metal. So I've got the bottom kind of drawn, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this. I know where this needs to go, or at least the direction it needs to go. So here's a little trick on getting those curves. So if you have like a curved handle, I'm going to show you how to do that. Now some of you guys have kind of like a curve, and there might be even another sort of change or hook on it. So you have to take that in consideration. I'm going to turn it on its side. And again, I'm going to try to get this all on the screen. I'm going to kind of use my wrist like a compass. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of anchor my wrist on the table, and I'm just going to go like this basically. This is going to stay stationary, and that's going to help me. It's going to take me a little bit here. It's going to help me make a nice curved line. See that? So if you put your paper on your side, and you kind of use your wrist and hand like a compass, that will help. And then I just need to check this out to see if it's right. And then I just go in. A lot of times when I'm trying to figure out how to draw something, I draw a bunch of lines, and then I erase away what I don't want, kind of carve out what I want. You can see all my attempts there. And I might turn it back around and kind of play around with it a little bit. Now again, remember what I said. These handles are kind of skinny at the bottom and thicker at the top. I'm actually going to draw it as if it's the same width for right now. because it makes it easier for me to match the curve on the outside. So I'm just going to keep everything the same width, and then I'll go back in and thicken it up at the top. So again, I'm drawing it wrong first, and then I'll fix it. I want to get that to match. So that looks like it matches. Now I'm going to go through, and I'm going to make this a bit wider up here at the top. So again, I get that detail on there. And I'm just going to go through and erase what I don't want to keep. Kind of clean it up. And then because, and I'll show you my tool again, this is hooked up to this, I'm going to go ahead and start drawing up. But again, for me, I'm just going to draw this top part. I'm going to ignore this bottom part right now. Your tool's different. You do whatever feels natural to you. I already know where I need to go. I know I can't go any wider than this, and I know I need to go up here. But again, these are suggestions. I'm going to do what feels right, but it gives me a place to start. I'm already changing it. Has somebody out already? And again, at any time, I'm kind of like, okay, well, how wide does this need to be? I can mark and measure it. If you have any questions like that, you can pull your tool off of the easel and just go ahead and measure it. I've got teeth on my tool. I'm going to ignore that stuff. I'm going to ignore those details. Just wait. So again, I'm just going to draw this top part. So I'm just playing around with that. That's going to take me some time. And again, I don't know if I'm right yet because obviously I need that other half to just kind of compare and contrast with to see if I'm on the right track. But again, that's sort of a start. Alright, so plier people, I want you guys to continue to work on that part. Okay. Hurry back. Alright, wrench people, I'm switching back. Hopefully you're happy with, you know, sort of your shell, so to speak. Once you get that shell and you feel happy about it, or you feel good about it, I think I still need to work on stuff. This shape doesn't look right, so I'm going to fix that. Doesn't look big enough or wide enough. Move it over. So again, really look at your drawing. Make sure these angles look like they match. Okay. I think I got that fixed, but made it bigger. Worked on the angle. I can go ahead and get rid of some of these guidelines that I no longer need. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to continue to kind of break this up. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I am basically going to try and figure out where this indentation is. I'm going to ignore the lettering and the numbers here. I'm going to get this hole at the bottom. I will eventually be going up here, and I will show you guys how to do that too. So first thing first, I'm going to do this down here at the bottom. Try to work on my circle. Now again, one of the things I do to just kind of help me draw these things, you can see I'm just drawing a bunch of circles basically in this one area. I'm going to kind of so I'll kind of work like that, and then I'll go with my eraser and kind of get rid of what I don't need and get the shape that I need. So that's the hope, is that when I'm done kind of cleaning this up, I have what I need. Not very good at drawing circles, so this is what I have found that works best for me. Could never draw a perfect circle, single line. I have to play around with it. All right, so I'm going to continue to move up. I'm going to deal with this indentation. Kind of borders the shape here. I'm going to again turn this on its side when I start to draw this long line here. Well, actually, let me figure out where it needs to end first. Okay, now I know where it needs to go. And then turn around, do this other side. Okay, so I've got that, I think. It's always I think. Who knows, I might change it later. I still kind of feel like this is a little off. That looks better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tackle this gear that's in here. So this gear, talking about this right here. So when you look at this, you basically have kind of like a wacky rectangle that's sort of framing the whole section. And inside you have a cylinder that has stripes on it, or these threads. I am going to draw this in the exact order that I just described it. So I'm going to draw this rectangle first. I'm going to do the cylinder second, and then I'll do the stripes third, and then the fourth step will be to kind of finish up whatever I see around it. So, I highly suggest, those of you who are working on the wrench, to kind of stop what you're doing and follow along this part, because you'll want to see this. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw where this box needs to go. Again, I'm going to use the information that I already have on to help me. So I notice that the angle for my box matches the angle of this top edge here, so I'm going to use that. It's not a perfectly kind of squared off box either. These corners are not 90-degree angles. So I'm going to play around with this until I feel like I've got it right. If you want to, you can measure just how wide it is and how tall it is. I'm not going to make such a big deal of that as long as I think I have enough room for everything. So again, like I said, it's kind of a wacky rectangle. And I definitely see that there's a change in the edge here at that angle. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. So I'm going to start with the cylinder. I'm going to draw the cylinder first that's inside. Now it's not exactly smack dab in the middle of this, so it's a little bit lower. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw where I see it. I'm going to kind of also too take into consideration how much space it's taking up. I'm going to draw that about right here. Okay. Now notice I haven't drawn the edges or the ends yet, because I'm going to show you a little trick on how to do that. When you do this, you're going to, for the right side, you're going to curve it out to the right, like that. So it's not a straight line, it's curved out towards the right. I'm going to curve it the exact same way over here on the left side, like that. So now it looks like this. And I'm not done with that cylinder yet. I'll show you the last step on that. And see, this is telling me I need to fix some things on here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do to finish this, I'm going to kind of draw an oval here on the end. So now that looks three-dimensional. This is the only thing so far that I've got on my drawing that actually looks 3D. So, everything still looks very flat. You know, everything's still very flat. This is the only thing that's 3D yet. Alright, so next, kind of zoom into this so we can see it better. I'm going to deal with these like threads that I see. These are the threads. You can call them stripes. There are 4 of them that I see. Now I'm only going to draw 3 because I feel like if I try to put 4 in there, I'm going to run out of room. Nobody's going to know the difference. So what I'm going to do is going to take note of, gotta just clean this stuff up a little bit. Take note of sort of how they curve around the cylinder. So I'm going to draw them just like single lines at first. And notice how I'm making this line go past the top and bottom of this cylinder. The reason why is because these stripes are wrapping around and on top of the cylinder, so that's why I'm starting it off like that. So I'll give you a chance to do that. To continue, I'm going to hook them around. So now they look like rings. I'll show you. So this is what it looks like now. These 2 I have already done. I have not done this one yet. I'm going to now hook them so they look like they're wrapping around that cylinder. I'm still not done yet. So now, I need to go in and make them look thicker. So I've done these 2. I have not done this one. So I'm just going in, and I have to kind of erase this too. There. So now I have my threads that wrap around. So kind of play with that. And then I've got some stuff that I see here at the top that I'm going to draw in. Just kind of fill up the space a little bit. I also see the inside of the wall. So that helps me finish it off. That so far is the only area that actually looks 3-dimensional. And there is like a little of attachment here too. Some of you might see it, some of you might not. I do. I need to put right there. Okay, so your guys' next step, for those of you who are working on the wrench, is to add in your 3D details. You're either going to see the left side of your tool, like the side of the tool on the left side, or you're going to see the side of the tool on the right side of every part of this. For me, I see the side of the tool on the left. You might be different. It just depends on where you're sitting and how you're looking at the tool. So now what I'm going to do is go through and add those details. Now I'm ready to start making this look 3-dimensional. When I'm drawing this, I'm paying special attention to how the thickness of this side changes. Some areas I see a lot, like I see a lot of this, but then it just gets really skinny right here. And then at some point, I do lose it down here. Actually, it's easier for me to do it this way. And I do lose it somewhere, it just kind of tucks behind and gets lost. And then I also see the inside of the edge right here. And then I see a little part right here a little bit. So that's what I've got. Now again, I've pretty much got everything on here except for that text. We'll do that later. So now it's just all about getting kind of picky and fixing everything up. Alright, Plier people, I haven't forgotten about you. So Plier people, now, at least for me, my next step is to do this other handle. This is where my little trick comes in, okay? I want all of you who are working on pliers and need to draw the other handle, I need you to, and you should have this still at your table. You should have a piece of tracing paper at your table, one for each person. More likely, there's already a drawing on there, which is fine. So you want to grab a piece of tracing paper, and you want to grab a 3B pencil out of your cup. This is the only time you are going to use a 3D pencil for the drawing portion. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a minute to get set up on that. Who needs tracing paper? You guys have a piece for each person?
Yeah.
We are going to reuse used pieces, guys. You guys all have tracing paper? You guys all have a piece of tracing paper? You guys all have a piece of tracing paper here? Grab it. You have it. Alright, so again, I'm going to repeat myself. Those of you who have pliers need a piece of tracing paper, and you need a 3B pencil in your hand. Make sure you have 3B. If you do this with a 4H pencil, it's not going to work. Alright. Going to get started here. Try to... Okay, so you should have a piece of tracing paper, and you should also have a 3B pencil. Okay? I'm going to be, again, using just my regular pencil, and I can get away with this just because it's a softer lead, so it's pretty dark. Alright, so basically what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how you can basically copy your handle that you drew and use it for the second one without having to draw it twice. Okay? One of the biggest problems, or I'd say frustrations with the pliers, is that when kids try to draw both handles, they don't look the same. So this is going to solve that problem for you. Okay? So as you guys can see, I've got a used piece of tracing paper. You do want to make sure you like what you have here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that tracing paper on top of my handle, and I'm going to trace it. And when I trace it, I'm going to trace with a good bit of pressure. So this is, different than what I've told you before. I've been telling you guys to keep your drawings nice and light. Now I'm telling you, when you trace this with the 3B pencil, you need to give it some pressure. Just want to make sure that that tracing paper stays in place and doesn't move. And again, press pretty hard. Alright, so after you're done tracing, okay, I'm going to move it so you guys can see it. So this is my tracing, that's the original drawing. Alright, so this is the trick, okay? You want to watch. Take it so my tracing is on the top. You're going to take it, flip it over. So now the tracing's on the back of the paper. Now what you're going to do is you're going to move it so you have it in the right spot. Once you think you've got it lined up where it needs to go, keep moving mine. Hold it down, and now what you're going to do is trace back over. Now you're tracing on the back of your tracing paper. And again, when you do this, press down pretty hard. Again, press down pretty hard. And then all you need to do, this is the magic part, take it off, you'll have your second handle. All you did was transfer the lead to the paper. And then what you're going to do now is you're just going to continue your drawing. So now I can draw the second part of my tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw through the other piece that I have, just because I want to make sure that everything is connecting the way that it needs to. Also, too, I do need to change the bottom of this left handle that I just transferred, because it doesn't look the same as the one on the right, so that'll make it a little bit different. Guys, keep working on that second handle. Hello, guys. Good luck. Okay. I'm going to keep going here. I just saw something that I did wrong. So again, guys, what you're doing is you're just continuing to add things on here. On mine, my left side is actually higher than the right side, so that's why I'm drawing it like that. And again, although I took a lot of time to make those measurements and stuff, I'm open to changing those. Alright, so again, once you get that second handle on there, and you've drawn any missing parts that you still had, I'm going to go through and kind of erase now what I should not see, now that I know that everything's connecting. Now I'm going to go through and make things look 3D. And I'll show you guys, for those of you that have the teeth on your tool, I'll show you how to do that too. So again, on this, you're going to either see, the side on the left, or you're going to see the side on the right. Everybody's going to be different. I see, again, the side on the left, so that's where I'm going to be adding this three-dimensional edge. And again, I'm really taking the time to look at how the thickness of that edge changes. Might not seem like a big deal, but it is. And then I do find it helps me to make adjustments also too to my drawing. I see things that I just need to fix. Also, too, I'll show you guys how to do the handles. And we kind of need to stop right there. I'm going to show you how to do the handles right now. So for the handles, okay, as you guys can see, again, it's plastic wrapped around a piece of metal. So we want to make sure that it looks like it's wrapped and it's on top of the metal. So first thing I'm going to do is I just need to figure out where these things got to go. I'm just going to draw a line where I see them. So as they are right now, they look really flat. I'm going to bring this down. They look really flat. So I'm going to show you guys how to make it look 3D. So what I want you to do first is take that now flat line, kind of erase it, and I want you to kind of curve it. So again, I went from flat to curve. That's going to help it look 3D. The other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to take it past the edge of my metal. past the edge of my metal. And then what I'm going to do is kind of add now the handle or the plastic around it. And then I'll just kind of draw it down to where it joins in with my old line down here. Yep, you're drawing the orange handles. Mine are black, but yours are orange. Nope. Nope. Alright, so what I'm going to do then is then erase my old line. Again, I want to make sure that it looks wider up here and thinner down here. So now you can see the difference between how this looks and that looks. This looks very flat, that looks more round. I still need to kind of work with this edge though. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that again for those of you who just want to see it again. Or maybe you didn't catch it the first time. So I take that straight line, I curve it. I didn't curve it very well. Curve it. I'm going to draw it past the edge of my metal. And then I'm going to draw a new outside edge because, again, that plastic is wrapping around. It's wrapping around, so I need to make the plastic look like it's on top of the metal. So what I'm going to do then is just take this line, drag it down a little bit, and then I'm just going to join it back in with my old line. Do that here on this side too. Okay, so that's how you can make that look 3D. Now I also I have like a bolt here I need to plug in. Again, I'm terrible at drawing circles, so. You can see the inside of this kind of hole right there, so I'm going to add that in there. So again, even as I go through and add some of these details, I see stuff I need to fix, change. So now I'm going to go in and, just one more side I need to add my edge to. Now again, on the top part of my tool, I've been ignoring the teeth. But I'm close to the point where I can start dealing with those now. Alright, so I'm ready for the teeth. For the teeth, like on mine, I have really, really tiny ones right here, and I have like bigger ones right here in the middle. I am not going to draw these teeth as tiny as they are right here, because I know if I do, You're not going to see them, so I'm actually going to make them bigger. I'll keep those then bigger than those. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually erase the edge here of where they need to go. So I'm going to erase the edge where they need to go. I can still see my line. It's still there. But I erased where those teeth are going to go. I'm going to turn my paper so it makes it easier for me to draw them. And then I'm just going to just draw these in. And again, if I don't have the exact number of the teeth correct, that doesn't matter. Nobody's going to be able to tell that I missed one or I have one too many or whatever. Just the point is just getting that look. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here on my other side. The only thing is, that's a little bit more challenging, is that I have a 3D edge here. So I'm going to do the teeth here first on this, on the front, and then I'll show you how I do the back. But I am going to erase it first, where those teeth have got to go. I can still see my lines there. I'm going to do the same thing. Draw my teeth, and I'm just doing them on the front for right now. And then I'm just going to draw these lines where the peaks of the other teeth need to go, keeping the angle the same, like that. Now I know where my other ones need to go. And then I've got that. There we go, lots of teeth. Alright, so I want everybody just to work on finishing their drawings. The only thing we have left to do, other than just to continue to fix up our drawings, is the text. I will show you how to do the text on Friday. But now's just the time to kind of get picky and make sure that everything's in a good place. Alright, so let me show you my finished, at least where we should be. So there's the pliers. And there's the wrench. Kind of zoom in a little bit. Alright, so that's where you want to get, okay? That'd be a good place to be at the end of today. Oh wait, I forgot something. Just remembered. Hold on, wrench people. You might see that you got some stuff here on the side. I haven't put that in. That's something I need to remember. Let me show you how I'm going to put. You'll see there's like kind of like a little mechanism right here. So I'm going to put that in. First of all, I've got like kind of that's that, where that hooks up to that. There. Got it in. Okay. Let's try this again. Here's what the wrench looks like now, and my pliers. Alright, that's where you want to end now. Get you ready for Friday.